Hello and welcome to another edition of Lab Rats. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And this is the show that demystifies technology and helps you with your gadgets and gives you tips and tricks on how to use the internet better and all kinds of stuff like that. Today on the show, one of the most common things you will do on the internet.
Yes. That'll be shopping now.
That would be shopping.
Yeah, there's a big move away from retail at the bricks and mortar level. Going out to the actual store, and a lot of people are just sitting at home and just shopping online and having it shipped to them, which is nice and convenient. Not so good for the bricks and mortar stores, though. But a lot of people out there are still thinking to themselves, "Is it safe? What can I do to stay safe?" And
we get stopped on the street all the time by soccer moms who go, "Hey, Andy and Sean, is it safe to shop online?"
And we say, "Not on your life."
No,
actually, that's not what we say at all.
We say it's actually. Well, we'll save that for the show, shall we?
Yeah. Is it safe? Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, safe shopping online today on Lab Rats. This episode brought to you by our friends at Hover, the easiest way to buy domain names and do more with them. Get 25% off today by visiting hover.com/labrats. I've been shopping online, since the early days of the internet. Probably to my own detriment too. Not necessarily a smart thing to do, especially in the early days when things were insecure.
Mm-hmm. I remember the earliest days of the net for me is we used to get onto mailing lists, and people would be offering things for sale, and at that point it was a much different crowd of people. They were mostly academics and whatnot. It was a little bit more secure back in those days, it seemed like, just because there was a trust factor. But now everyone's on the internet. You just don't know who's out there trying to scam you, take your money, whatever.
Right, exactly. So let's. But luckily, this technology has been built into the browser now to actually make it safer than it used to be. Mm-hmm. So let's kind of walk through maybe some of the things you're going to see in your browser to understand the shopping process and how you know if you're safe or not.
Yeah, and this isn't just shopping. This is also banking as well. It's roughly the same thing. Anything that involves your money online.
Right. Okay. Good. Like a secure transaction.
Secure transactions.
So what do we look for first?
You want to make sure that when you log in, that it's got a secure connection for doing this.
And what do we mean by secure connection then?
All right. So when you do any bit of internet right now, for the most part, what you're doing is you're sending things out, completely unsecured. So any bit of information you send out is going out completely out in the open. It's going through routers all over the internet, from here to your bank or from here to wherever you go. And it's just anyone can read it along the way if they so choose.
It's kind of like sending a postcard through the mail.
It's kind of like sending a postcard through the mail.
Everybody can read what's going on if they have the tools to do that.
And giggle at it.
And giggle. Right. So when you get secure, what you're doing is you're taking all the information, you're kind of scrambling it up, mm-hmm. and you're sending it encoded mm-hmm. between you through all those routers that you talked about to the endpoint, and they're going to decode it at the other end. So that if anybody tries to snoop on that, mm-hmm. then all they see was garbage in the stream of information.
Yep. So how that's happening is when you go to your bank and you're about to do something that needs security on it, is your browser will go to a page and say, "Hey, I'd like some security on this." And the browser on the other end will say, "Well, okay, let's set up a transaction here." And they'll use something called cryptography. We don't need to go into the details of that, but what it does is it says, here's a code. Both of them are going to use this same code to figure out how we're going to communicate, how to scramble it and descramble it. Mm-hmm. And anyone else in the middle who doesn't have that code won't know what to do. And there's a way using cryptography to actually create a direct connection between me and you, and even just negotiate that without actually letting other people in on what we're doing.
Okay, good. But to the end user, to the fundamental, basic beginner shopper, what do they need to look for?
Well, they don't need to worry about any of that whatsoever. That's too complicated. What they need to look for is two things. And in the browser window at the top, you see on my bank thing HTTPS instead of HTTP at the beginning of the address. Mm-hmm. That means secured. And at the bottom of my Firefox, and I think it's at the top in Internet Explorer, there's a little lock icon right here that says this is now a secured transaction.
Right. Let me open it here, my banking here on Internet Explorer, and I'll show you what it looks like here. As you can see, that padlock, which is locked now, before I even get into the bank, mm-hmm. Is saying it's a secure connection. So there's HTTPS over here, as you can see, and then the padlock is closed up here on the URL bar on Internet Explorer, which is, of course, the browser most people will use. It's the most common browser in the world, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, I did want to point out one other thing, which I think is increasingly important these days, is something called extended validation certificates. And so when you get that HTTPS connection, right, that's what it does is that uses a certificate or a digital certificate that says, yeah, this website is who they say they are. The problem with that is the fraudsters out there, it's actually relatively easy to get one of those certificates. And the fraudsters who are like pretending to be banks and that are actually getting their own code signing certificates, right? Or SSL, what they call SSL6 certificates.
Yeah, and that's important because you can get a secure connection, but a secure connection to a bad guy.
Right. So there is one level higher up that some of the big brands are using these days, and it's called, as I said, extended validation certificates. These are harder to get, and there's a whole new level of technology going back and forth between the certificate provider and the institution that you're connecting to. So let me just demonstrate what that looks like, because you can actually see it in your browser. I'm going to go over to PayPal here, and as we call that up, you'll see up here in the address bar, it goes green. It says PayPal Inc., right, and it goes green.
So before it was just a tiny little icon with no color, and then it just extends out and goes green to let you know that there's something else there.
Right, and if I click on it, you can actually see who is the code signing authority on it. So in this particular case, it was VeriSign. But that's important. So if you have that little green icon or a bar on Firefox, that means there's an extra level of security. You can feel safer. And then in the case of IE, if you go to PayPal and do it that way, it looks a little different. But what happens is the entire bar goes green, just like this here.
So little subtle visual cues to let you know that it's safe or not safe, potentially.
Right. And VeriSign, is now getting into the business of educating people about this. But if your bar goes green and you can click on it and get information, then it means that it's an extended validation certificate and it's safer.
There we go. So now we know what to look for. I guess we need to actually go out online and do some shopping now and to figure out how to stay safe. Because as I said, you can create a secure connection to a bad person that's trying to trick you of your money, and you don't necessarily want to do that.
Okay, so what are some tips?
Well, I think the first thing is that you have to make sure that you go to trusted sources, trusted sites that are out there. So first of all, if you get this email in your inbox and it just says, click on here to get great deals on such and such. Well, no, don't do that, because that's not necessarily safe. What you want to do is, if you want to go shopping for something, you want to make sure that you know the retailer, know who it is, know that it's their official site, first of all, because there can be people squatting on similar looking domains that aren't really the ones that you want to go to, or something that looks kind of off. So if you're unsure, call the store that you want to go. I want to shop online. What's your website? Yeah. And then you can go on there and do it that way. Because what's happening is, if you just do a search on the web for, I'm looking for blah, 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 and up comes a store that you've never heard of before, well, that's just like going out into the parking lot in front of a store and just handing someone your credit card. You don't know who you're giving it to. Yeah. And you don't want to do that. Right. Can you blur up my credit card number there, Matt? Thanks. Great. So there we go. Now, and don't flash your credit card to everyone on your podcast. Right.
One of the other things is apparently PayPal's it's a better transaction mechanism. So PayPal, of course, is a website. It's sort of like an online bank where you can deposit funds and use those funds online from PayPal to pay a vendor. You call that an escrow service.
Escrow service. Yeah. Basically, you're paying PayPal and they're paying the person at the other end. Right. It's not 100% escrow, because escrow, there's a verification process that goes on. Send them the money, they send you the goods, and they say, okay, good, and then send it the other way. So it's not 100% true escrow in that.
It's an intermediary
it's an intermediary. Yeah, so the point is that if you give your credit card out to someone who may not be reliable, they now have your digits, and they can just ring it up anytime they like. Bang, bang, bang. Here's another $50. $100? I'm going to Hawaii. And with PayPal, you actually have to intervene and say, this is a transaction I'm doing right now.
I got it. Okay, good. And then you have a little gadget to actually enhance your PayPal experience as well. Talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so if you have a PayPal account, you get into it using your username or email address plus a password. Well, if you've got a kid in the house, or a spouse or something like that who may ring it up indiscriminately, you don't want to necessarily give those two things away. If they've gotten in the past, they can ring up your PayPal account now, which is the same as pulling it straight out of your
my 7-year-old son, my stepson, has he now knows all of my passwords. He's like, hey, he actually watched me type it one day. He goes, oh, I know what that is. It's blah, blah. I'm like, oh, no.
There you go. Yeah. So he could ring up your PayPal account here. So what this is this is a little key fob called the security key from from PayPal, and we've actually got that up right here. It costs $5 just to ship it to you. And what happens is when you're about ready to make a transaction, you just press this button here when it asks you to, and a little number pops up.
Is that your password?
Yeah, every 30 seconds it changes. So you know, showing this to everyone out here is not a big problem here. You know, it's not going to come up. So if I go, for example, to eBay and I'm logging on, it's a PayPal-related service. So I type in my username and I type in my password here. Okay, so once you get that on, now it'll say enter your 6-digit security code. So I'm going to click this right here. Again, 372134, and I don't mind saying that out loud because this cycles through every 30 seconds. Then I'll sign in securely here, and now it'll let me in. And if I had gotten that wrong, it would say, sorry, you got the number wrong. And the chances of guessing a 6-digit number right off the top of your head, next to nil.
Right.
So,
Very good. How does that work, by the way? Do you know how the mechanisms work? Is there a canary inside that's like
magic. Well, essentially, it's time-based, so it knows what time it is, essentially. The server back there knows what time it is, so it knows, yeah, that's about right, or it knows it's something that's happened within the last 30 seconds, or thereabouts, and then it cycles through to the next one. So
very clever. Cool. And finally, let's talk a little bit about Wi-Fi. You know, you're out and about with your laptop, you're wirelessly connecting to the internet. People ask me all the time, you know, hey, you know, is it safe for me to do my banking, say at Starbucks, if you're connecting to a Wi-Fi connection there, or at a hotel or whatever? And the answer is, you know, it's not ideal, but if you're using this HTTPS secure connection to your bank or to the vendor, or one of these EV certificates, then it is highly secure because everything is basically, they are who they say they are, and you're scrambling information between you and them.
Yeah.
Now, preferably, if you want a higher level of security, then you want to be using security on the router itself with your laptop, and only you can control that, so you or your work. So, you know, there's a technology called WEP or WPA, WPA2. These are technologies that make a connection secure between the laptop and the router itself. But if you don't own the router, then you can't invoke that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and two little tips here is even if you're on a public access point, like you're at the Starbucks and there is a key that you have to enter, just remember that everybody else that's connected to that has the same key, so they can actually see the traffic that's going through if they're using the same key as you. Right. So don't assume just because you're using a secured connection to the router that you're still secure. There might be someone sitting next to you. And that's important as well. Another reason you may not want to do this at the Starbucks or at the local bookstore or whatever is you whip your credit card out to make a transaction at the store there. You're basically showing it off like I did earlier. Okay. So that's not necessarily the best thing. You know, ultimately, I think shopping online, if you take care of these few small points and understand what you're getting into, is actually safer than shopping using your credit card in the real world in a lot of cases. Because if you think about it, you take your credit card out, and I'm not going to take it out this time, you take your credit card out and put it on the tray, and it's you have just had a nice meal at the restaurant. Where did that credit card go once it disappeared out of your sight? You've got no clue. Right. You know, you've taken it, given it to the server has taken it to the back, and it might be sitting there for a couple minutes while they're waiting to process it, and someone out there might be just like snapping pictures of all the credit cards that are sitting there. Someone who, you know, got very low job satisfaction and wants to make a clean break and go to Hawaii.
There you go. All right, well, there's our advice for safe shopping on the internet. Coming up next is Mr. Mobile and Picture Time. We're also going to show you all of Sean's credit cards. But first, stay with us for this commercial break, and we'll be back with Sean's Visa number, MasterCard number, and American Express number, all on screen for you. Coming up next.
They're mine. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Hover, the easiest way to buy domain names and do more with them. Get 25% off today by visiting hover.com/labrats.
Well, if you're watching us on your mobile phone, then you'll be excited to know that Mr. Mobile is back in the show again with another segment about your mobile phone. So you don't even have to do anything other than get tips and then use them immediately. Woohoo! How exciting is that?
That was easy.
All right. So here's Mr. Mobile, and after that, Picture Time.
Hi, I'm Jay Goldman. You're watching Mr. Mobile. Today we are going to play with a musical instrument on the iPhone. Now, if you're a gamer and you've ever played any of the Legend of Zelda games, you might recognize the word ocarina. If you're not, don't worry. It's basically the official instrument of Legend of Zelda, and really it's just a flute. Now, what's cool about this app is that you can play it on your phone, and you can download it from the iPhone App Store, as with all of the apps that we look at Mr. Mobile. But you actually blow into the phone, which is a little bit different than any of the other games that we've taken a look at. So grab it from the App Store. You can type in Ocarina. The company who makes it is called Smule. That's Mule with an S at the beginning. And as always, once you've got it installed, it will appear on your homepage, and you can just tap on the icon to load the application. So tap on it right there, and it'll come up. Now, important URL that it's showing on the screen there, ocarina.smule.com. And the reason it's important is because they have sheet music there so that you can go and look at how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, or in fact, a lot of classic songs. I was playing some Beatles songs on it last night, or at least I was trying to play some Beatles songs on it last night. It's a lot harder than it looks. So when it comes up, you'll see that you basically have 4 finger positions as indicated on the screen by these little circles, and then it tells you to blow into the mic. And it really does mean blow into the mic, and I'll show you how that actually works. So bring the phone up to your face like this, and it already starts to pick up my voice. It's not really detecting you blowing, it's just the sound of you making noise into the microphone that actually makes it work. So if I blow, it sounds kind of like a flute. Now, I can push my fingers on these positions here, and I can make different sounds by just tapping on it as I'm blowing. There are 4 finger positions, and using the settings in the application, you can actually change the layout. There are 2 different layout modes, and you can change some of the colors that it uses on the display. So if I tap on this little icon here, it brings up the bar at the bottom, and then I can use that to do some configuring. So if I tap on the gear wheel, for example, that brings up the different settings. I can set my Ocarina ID. I can set the root note that it's using, that it'll change the pitch of when I'm pressing the buttons, which register it's using, or mode. In this case, Ionian. I'm not a musician, so I really have no idea what that means, and I've just left it on the default setting. I can change some of the colors and that kind of thing. One of the great things about this application is there's actually a worldwide community of Ocarina players, and at any point in time you can see who's playing and listen to what they're playing right now in real time. So if you tap on the icon at the bottom of the screen and you tap on the world mode icon, it will take you into this really cool 3D world view where you can actually pan around the globe and listen as people are playing different songs. So I can use most of the traditional iPhone interactions here. I can use my finger to pan around the world, and I can pinch to zoom in and out. But I can also tap on this icon here and choose different modes. So we've got world mode, region mode, which lets me focus to one specific region and only listen to players from that area, top melodies, or ones that I've loved in the past or have played in the past. And so that gives you a little bit of control over what you want to be able to look at, and you can favorite different things by just tapping on the heart icon in the top corner. That's Ocarina. You can find it in the iTunes App Store. It's a great download, a lot of fun for kids if you've got them, or just for you if you don't. Give it a look. I'm Jay Goldman. This has been Mr. Mobile. Thanks for watching. Check us out on Butterscotch.com for more past episodes, or for some of the other great Butterscotch.com shows you know and love. See you next time.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Mobile, for your pearls of wisdom in the mobile world. Now we have pictures.
We do have pictures,
We have 2 today.
and they're both secured.
Yay! Very good. All right.
So first up, we have an avatar of one of our viewers named George, and he created this for Yahoo. So there you go, and he looks like he's doing a little bit of chatting on Yahoo too with that little headset there.
Very good.
So very good. Thank you for
Nice.
sending that along. You
What
can
a
send
good
us-
idea.
You can send us pictures of you, or you can send us, illustrations of you. That'll work too.
Yeah, of course. Okay, good.
Right. Next up, we have the setup for our viewer Andrew, who's in Pennsylvania, and it's his computer, a nice Dell XPS computer, nice and powerful,
Nice machine.
nice gaming rig, and about to play a game there is his cat Abby.
Hey, Abby the cat playing video games. Good stuff.
There you go.
All right, awesome. Well, you can send your pictures. We love to see your pictures too.
My credit card number is 555-932-355-968-329, expiration date 10/2012 at labrats.tv.
Thanks. Of course, you may not be able to remember all that or type all that in, so you can also send it to.
Feedback at labrats.tv.
Very good. And we want to see pictures of you and your mom and your grandma and your little brothers and your little sisters and your big brothers and big little sisters and your cats and your rats and your elephants and all of those things. Plus your gaming rigs, your machines, your TVs, whatever it is you want to show off. We want to see them. But make sure you tell us who you are, where you live, And who's in the picture?
And if you're the person whose credit card number I actually just read out, please don't write in.
Sorry.
Don't call the police either.
All right, don't forget too, we want to hear from you about all the shows that you've been watching on butterscotch.com, our new home of Lab Rats. Lots of shows there, including a show by Amber McCarthy called A-List, and The Noob, and all kinds of stuff, as well as hundreds and hundreds of tutorials. So if you've been on that site and you've seen an episode you really like, then let us know what you've been watching, why you like it, what your name is, and we may send you a Butterscotch t-shirt.
They're limited edition.
They are. We only have 500 of those, too. We do. I ordered 500. Anyway, that's it for Lab Rats. Thanks for pushing play this week. We love to hear from you, and we love to get your feedback. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And we'll see you next time.
Are you ready? Try this at home.
Okay, let's go. Last area, record. Okay. PayPal.com.